Hello beautiful people of the internet, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and I am so excited that you joined me today. For today's video, we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of September, and there's quite a few things to talk about. Let me address the elephant in the room for just a minute. There's actually a couple of elephants. I am just now getting over a cold. I'm still fighting it, to be honest. So if I sound a little bit weird, I'm just trying to survive over here. And I decided that I was going to be a little bit more comfy for this video, so we're sitting on my couch in front of my Squishmallow collection, so hopefully that's okay with all of you. In September, I read a total of 9 books. Future Hannah here. I didn't read 9 books, I read 8 books. Don't let me lie to you. Books, which is kind of average, a little bit slow for me, to be honest. I try and read at least 10 books a month, but I just didn't get there this month. There was a lot going on as per usual, but I really did find a lot of books that I really loved this month and some that I didn't love so much. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the books I read in September. So I moved you slightly because the sun is like shining on me at all angles. Just know if I move you around, there's good reason for it. The first book that I read in September is Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe, and this is by Heather Weber. This is the first book that I've ever read by Heather Weber, and I've heard really good things about her backlist, so I'm definitely going to check out more by her. I loved this one. This gave me kind of Hallmark movie vibes, but with a deeper, heavier element. In this one, we're following a dual perspective between our main characters, Anna Kate and Natalie. And as the reader, we're trying to figure out why these two are connected and what brings these two together at the end. Anna Kate is a big city girl who moves back to her hometown in Alabama, and then Natalie has always been in this small town in Alabama. So those two are connected in certain ways, but we're trying to figure out, like, are they gonna meet? Like, what's gonna happen? Why are we following these two? This book was very cozy. It did have that heavier, more rugged undertone to it, so it's definitely not like your happy-go-lucky Hallmark movie. It's definitely got those deeper, heavier topics throughout it, but I loved it. I loved the Blackbird Cafe. I loved the element of the blackbird pie. The blackbird pie does have magical elements to it, and I really liked that. I just really liked this one. It had a really good magical realism in it, and that's not always my cup of tea. I'm not a huge fan of magical realism unless it's done correctly, and I thought that this was a solid read. I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I picked up was actually for the Libranauts book club hosted by my friend Elise, and this is Foe by Anne Reid. Anne Reid is another author that I have not really read anything by except for this one, and I am interested in picking up more of his books. This one is following our main characters, Junior and Hen, and Junior and Hen kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, and then one night they're awakened by headlights. And this guy named Terrence shows up, and Terrence begins to tell Junior that he's been selected to go on this space mission where they're trying to basically build a community in space. So he tells Junior that he's going to go away for a couple of years, but not to worry, he's going to leave a replacement with Hen. And so Junior is like, I'm not really on board with this, but I guess I'll go with it. And so they begin their training and things happen, and oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, guys, this was a trip, which I don't think that is definitely uncommon for Anne Reid's books. I think a lot of his books are trippy. I did end up giving it a 3.5 though, just because I felt like it was so short and I kind of wanted a deeper, more meaningful story with the characters. However, with the Libranauts book club, my friend Elise hosted a movie night of this movie, and when I tell you that there has not been a movie in a very long time that has moved me the way that this movie moved me, yeah, I have nothing else to say. It was hard to watch, but it was so good. It was so good. It was really thought-provoking, and I think when a book can make you think, then it's pretty good. I do think I'm going to stick with my 3.5 rating though, because again, I just wanted a little bit more deeper connection with those characters, but overall, Really solid read. And then I picked up Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This book has taken the BookTube, Bookstagram community by storm, and a lot of people are really loving this and a lot of people are picking it up. However, I did not like this book. I'm sorry. I just could not do it. I could not get into it. I had very, very mixed feelings from the get-go. I really did like their banter. I thought it was funny. There was a lot of funny elements to it, and I love when a book can make me laugh. But I just really did not get with the characters. I really didn't. I also think that my enjoyment really stemmed from the audiobook. I think my enjoyment was really skewed because of the audiobook. This audiobook narrator was awful. I know she's probably a great person, but she is not meant to make audiobooks. I thought this narrator made these characters sound 12 years old, and I did not like that. It was an adult novel, but at the same time, they felt 12 to me. It felt almost too quirky, if that makes sense. It felt too juvenile, which is crazy because I do love me a good YA romance sometimes, but this is not a YA romance. I think that's why I had so many problems with it, is because it felt very juvenile to me. And I'm sorry to my friends who loved it. I really love that for you. I love that so many people can enjoy this book, but for me, this was a dud. This one is following our main character, Evie, and Evie is just minding her own business one day, and she sees these posters posted about beware of the villain. And the townspeople describe this villain as being just this beastly, horrible man who is out to get everyone. And long story short, Evie basically becomes the villain's assistant. And, you know, things happen, romance ensues, blah, blah, blah. I really went into this one thinking it was going to be a 5 stars, but it just wasn't. The next book that I picked up was The Quiet Tenant, and this is by Clemence Michelin. I think that's how you say that. This one is following a man who is a serial killer, but at the same time, he decides he's going to keep this specific woman hidden in his shed for up to 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, basically he is forced to move out of his house, and he decides to take this woman with him. This was very uncomfortable. I am not going to fluff this up and say that this was a good, fun time. I loved it so much. This was uncomfortable to read, okay? So if you are not good with being uncomfortable and being a little uncomfy when you read something, don't pick this up, okay? I'm telling you that right now. This is very uncomfortable to read, but at the same time, it made me feel like when the first time I read Notes on an Execution. If you guys have ever read that book before, Notes on an Execution is very, very hard to read. It's basically following a serial killer that's on death row. That one says a lot in a short amount of time. I felt like this one had that same kind of read between the lines commentary that this one did so well. I really liked that. I think if you can get past all of the really, really uncomfortable parts and the fact that, I mean, this man is holding this girl hostage, it is a really, really uncomfortable read. Okay, I don't know how many times I can tell you that, but it is really uncomfortable to read. It's so good. Like, if you can see in between the lines of what this one is trying to say, I really do think that you would enjoy it. This was a 5-star for me. I could not give this book 5 stars. It affected me so much to the point where I was still thinking about it like days after I finished it. If you're good with being uncomfy, this is a good one. The next book I picked up was for my friend Keisha's book club called Revive. This is a Christian book club that she hosts every other month, and I was a co-host this month, and we read Up From Dust by Heather Kaufman. This is my first Heather Kaufman novel as well, and I really, really enjoyed this one. This one is following Martha from the Bible and her story. This is a biblical fiction, so it does kind of fill in the gaps that scripture doesn't tell us. So this is all speculation. I would say for like 60% of it, there are a lot of things that actually did happen in scripture. There's a lot of different passages from scripture that are put in here, and I really did enjoy that. This was actually my first biblical fiction that I've ever picked up, and I will say for my first biblical fiction, I really did enjoy this one. So if you've never read the story of Martha, she has a sister named Mary and a brother named Lazarus, and there's a lot of things that happen with Mary and Lazarus and Martha. And I will say the first half of this book is kind of solemn because it's really getting Martha's perspective on everything that supposedly has happened in her life and has made her the way that she is and wired the way that she is. But y'all, the second half of this book, when somebody named Jesus shows up, honey, the party's on now. Okay. Jesus kind of shows up early on in the book, but they're just talking about him. But when he really shows up, honey, the hope is there and the party has started. Okay, it is so good. I cried so many times, especially in the second half. I love this. I gave this a solid 4. I really do think this is a solid biblical fiction. Just go in knowing that it's not going to be the happiest biblical fiction that you've ever read. But then again, like, most of scripture isn't the happiest either. Like, it's about real hardships that happened. So I really do think that this is a solid biblical fiction. So just in case you're wanting a recommendation for biblical fiction. The next book I picked up was actually from my book club, Comfy Cozy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave all those details down below. I host a bi-monthly book club called Comfy Cozy, and I'll get to our actual book club pick in just a second, but this was an unofficial buddy read. We're unofficially buddy reading this entire series in my book club Discord, so if you're interested, go check that out. But the continuation of the series was book number 4 in A Call for Kelp. This is by Bree Baker. This is the Seaside Cafe Mystery series, and I absolutely love this series, and I really do think that that is a common theme with this series. So many people love it. So many of my book club people love it. I absolutely love this series. If you're just looking for a good fun time and a cozy with those beachy vibes, but also like with a side of murder. Oh, and let's not forget this romance in here. Oh my gosh, let's talk about it. This one in particular is following our main character, Everly Swan, and Everly owns a seaside cafe. And in this one, a Hollywood actress celebrity comes to the town and they're doing a bee documentary. And this Hollywood actress is allergic to bees and she basically dies through being stung. And it looks like foul play. So, of course, Everly is on the case. She's this amateur sleuth, but let's talk about this detective. Okay, let me make myself loud and clear. I've read romance books that have made me yawn, that have bored me, okay? Absolutely love this romance in here. Let's just say, my book club peeps, okay, we know who he would be casted to be. If you know, you know. Anywho, I have a feeling that this one's probably going to be my favorite in the series. I absolutely loved this. This made me feel all the things, and the romance was like 75% of that. So I loved this one. This one was a solid 5. And the last book that I picked up for the month of September was our book club pick for Comfy Cozy, Cherry Pie or Die by Cece James. I absolutely loved this book. This one is following our main character, Georgie, and after a traumatic life event, Georgie moves back to her historical hometown in Pennsylvania, where her grandmother's best friend, Cecilia, owns a B&B. And Cecilia, being like an aunt, she gives Georgie a job, basically giving these historical tours. Well, her first day on the job does not go as planned when she is giving a tour of this haunted mansion, when all of a sudden the lights go out and then they come back on and there's been a murder take place. This is everything I needed it to be. Okay, this is everything I needed it to be and more. I absolutely loved Cecilia. The reason that these are like food based is because Cecilia does all the baking for the B&B and she was baking pie in this one. Besides the crazy kooky suspects that we're not supposed to like, I loved so many characters in this story. Also, in this short little book, there was great grief representation in here. Actually, when we discussed this book, we talked a lot about that grief representation. Our discussion was just really good. So I discussed this book with my friends Leah, Beth, and Wendy, and I will leave that down below just in case you decide to pick this one up and you want some more thoughts. I gave this cozy mystery a solid 4 stars. I think that was the general consensus. I think we were all on the same page with that, just because it is really short and it is really hard to get invested into the characters in just a short amount of time. But I think this is one of those books that you're going to have to just love them as the books go along. Again, this was just a solid read. And there you have it, my friend. Guys, I was about to wrap up this video, I really was. Y'all are gonna get a hold of me when you figure out what book I forgot. Hold on. Are you kidding me? I forgot to tell you I finished this book in September. Did I start it in September? Nope. I started it in March. Did I finish it in September? Yes, I did. Am I going to count it towards my September wrap up? Yes, I am. I finally finished The Goblet of Fire. And I made a whole reading vlog on my experience reading the first 4 books. I will leave that up above and down below if you're interested in watching that. I go into much, much deeper thoughts in that video, so please go watch that. Long story short, this wasn't my favorite in the series. I think it was more so how long it took me to get through it, just because I kept putting it down and kept picking it up, and that just wasn't the way to go with this one. I felt like I should have read it all the way through, but don't you get it twisted, okay? I had a great, grand old time with this book, okay? However, I just didn't love this one. This one was not my favorite. I ended up giving this one a 3.5. I know that so many of you love this one. It probably hurts your heart to hear me say that. But again, I just don't think this one was my favorite. I did like the movie, again, but the movie just wasn't my favorite either. I think so far in the series, out of the 3 books, my favorite is Prisoner of Azkaban. But you guys are telling me that the series just gets crazier from here, and I'm honestly kind of scared. There you have it, my friends. Those are the 9 books. Hannah, you read 8 books that I finished in the month of September. If you made it this far into the video, please let me know what your favorite book in September was. Or if you don't have anything else left to say, leave me a cherry emoji, because this was our book club pick for September. And until next time, my friends, remember this world is a better place with you in it, and I love you so much. And thanks so much for stopping by on my little corner of the internet today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys!